All right, so this is gonna be a little bit different from my previous deck videos, since I'm doing this live for the first time. Hi stream, hello catters, hello Twitch. Twitch say hi to YouTube. YouTube catters say hello to the people in the past. So as the video title suggests, as the video title says, we took White Forest 2 regionals. I ended up bubbling out of top 32. It was a little over 500 person, tournament. I ended up drawing my last round that I had to win, bubbling out of top 32 and getting 54th place for my first regionals. So a little upset by it, but hey, for our first regionals, I mean, I did the best out of everyone from my store. I was the last remaining person from my store. I had a chance to win and get in, just couldn't close in the end, just couldn't finish in the end. So we went with White Forest. The reason why I chose White Forest, one, love this deck. If you're watching this video, see my previous videos. I've made nothing but White Forest videos for the past year. I feel like I know this deck inside and out. With the new format, there's a lot of decks I wanted to try with Yummy, K9, Vanquish Soul, Draco Tail, all those different decks that I just didn't have enough time to play test. And I didn't want to play a mirror against a deck that I didn't know well enough or like be comfortable enough. So we went with White Forest. Also, this format is actually pretty decent for White Forest. It has very good matchups into a lot of the current decks out right now. And the ability for the deck to play board breaker cards to be able to send for White Forest effects when they're just dead makes this deck very strong. And the fact that Droll Lockbird is not being main decked hardly anymore and people are only siding it in makes White Forest even stronger now as well. Were there any Punk matchups? No, I'd never ran into Punk. My round list went, round 1 was Orcust, Azamina, Mitsurugi. Round 2 was Draco Tail, pure Draco Tail. Round 3 was Draco Tail again. Round 4 was Ryzeal, Mitsurugi. Round 5 was Yummy. Round 6 was K9, Vanquish Soul. Round 7 was a bye. Round 8 was Yummy. Or round 7 was opponent no-showed, not really a bye, but opponent no-showed. Round 8 was Yummy. Round 9 was Mermail. Only decks I lost to during the tournament were the Orcust Mitsu Azamina deck, first game, and then the Ryzeal Mitsurugi game. Every other deck I either went or drew again. I either drew or won against. I drew against one Draco Tail, and then I drew against the Mermail player in the last round. If you watch the VOD, if you watch the previous video or the recap, I'm not gonna go through all of it. I'll post a recap of all of regionals, my regionals experience as well alongside this video. So deck tech guide time. We're on White Forest, pure White Forest, no Fiendsmith, 43 cards in main deck now. And you will see why it was super hard. I really wanted to cut it down to 42. But I just could not find any feasible way to cut it down to 42 or get it lower than 43. I feel like I had to run all of these cards. And I'll talk about the changes after of what I want to play test going forward while the format is still developing as well. So first and foremost, of course, White Forest names, 3 LZ, 3 Sylvie. This is pretty standard. Every White Forest deck is playing these amount of names for our starters. I don't really need to go into all of these. We are on the 1 Esteller because of Droll is still prevalent. Perulia is still prevalent, and this is our playthrough through both of those. And then 1 LZ Azamina, obviously. And then we are actually now on 1 Rusia. This is pretty much my 43rd card. And honestly, Rusia is needed now. There's so many interactions of K9 Vanquish Soul in different decks that their interactions either just bounce stuff back to your hand or take your monsters, that if you have to hard commit to normal summon Sylvie or normal summon Esteller as your only way to get to level 4 tuners, then you're just getting blown out. Like, you need ways to extend. And a lot of the times, like, I was searching Rusia with LZ of the White Forest because I either opened LZ and Sylvie or had like Witch of the White Forest to access or had Tails to access, where I was just not committing my normal summon until I went through all of their interaction. That is 9 White Forest names. I think you actually need to just run all 9 of these White Forest names. A little awkward with having 3 one-ofs, because sometimes like you like will see like a Stellar and Rusia, which is fine, because like if they imperm Ash your Stellar, you just special Rusia, and then you still have your Rusilia plays. I think the only awkward hand with running both of these is if you just open both Sylvie and Rusia. You don't have too many plays if they have like a lot of hand traps or a lot of interaction, but hopefully that just doesn't happen. In 43 cards, you're less likely to see the one-ofs, so that's all that matters. Then we are on 3 Witch of the White Forest. I had tried testing this at 2 as being the cut, because it locks you out of the dark monsters. You don't really want to see this too much. You want to search this out, so you don't get locked out of your Azamina cards prior to going into your Azamina combo first. But cutting this down to 2, there was just not enough starters in the deck and not enough spells and traps in the deck. I was bricking a lot on just like hand traps and monsters. So you definitely, I'm of the opinion you need to run 3 Witch of the White Forest. Then we were on the 1 Tails, the 1 Woes, and the 1 Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. This is pretty standard. Never cut Woes. Droll still exists. This is still good interaction, especially since K9 Vanquished Soul and Yummy need their names face up on the field. Also, people are running a lot of board breakers like Lightning Storm, those kinds of effects, or Mitsurugi Murakumo. So being able to flip over Woes, make a Rusilia to protect your synchros is still very strong. In case you don't get access to your Diabell line. Then we have the 1 Diabell Star. We have our Sinful Spoils package. 1 Diabell Star, 3 Wanted. And this is pretty standard. The 1 Deception and the 1 Hollowed. And then we are actually on, this was a MVP card for the entire tournament, and that is Debtors. I have been on Debtors since the new edition of the White Forest cards. Debtors lets us go into Illa Sylvia. If you don't know what Debtors is, if you haven't seen Debtors, it is a quick play version of Hallowed Azamina. So during your main phase, you get to reveal an Azamina fusion monster in your extra deck, fusion summon by sending the Sinful Spoils cards. But what happens is, why we still run Debtors is because when you have to start with Witch of the White Forest before you get access to your Azamina line, or if you get Molcharmi Fuwalost, so instead of going into your Hallowed Azamina to make your Azamina monsters, you go Deception, search Debtors, and so you have Debtors set, so you just fusion summon during your opponent's turn. So you can either make your Saint Azamina during your opponent's turn. If it's Yummy, going Debtors into make Soul Aristichian to just send their normal summon Cupsy, just cooks the entire deck. They don't really have a whole lot of place after that, and it saves your pop. Or you can go Debtors, make Ilia Sylvia, so you have the Omni negate during your opponent's turn. Debtors is a very versatile card that like more people should be playing this card. Also, this is very good against the grind game as well, because Debtors also has another effect where you can banish it and you monster reborn a Azamina monster from your graveyard. Continuing on, we talked about the Diabell package, the 4 Diabell cards: Curse of Diabell, Philia Diabell, Diabell Star Vengeance, and Diabell's the White Witch. This is standard for every White Forest list. Everyone's seen these cards. Everyone knows what they do. This is some of the strongest interaction, strongest engine. Then we are on to non-engine and hand traps. So as you can see already, as I'm flashing it, we are on 3 Fuwalos. We've always had 3 Fuwalos. Big change, because I wasn't on this prior. This was the change last minute as I was writing down the deck list at regionals before I registered. I am on 3 Perulia. I ended up dropping a little bit of cash before the tournament started and bought my 3rd Perulia, because it's a Perulia format with K9 Vanquished Soul, with Yummy. Yummy can play around it a little bit with Ryzeal still prevalent. Mitsurugi's still prevalent. Opening one or both of these cards just absolutely just like seals the game. There was one time I played against the Ryzeal Mitsurugi player. I opened Perulia. He tries to play through it. I draw 2 cards. I draw into a Fuelos, so I go Fuelos, and so now I'm drawing. I ended up with 12 cards in my hand and was just able to like cook his full board as he tried to play through it. So very strong. Like Molcharmies are obviously great. Then continuing the hand traps, I am on 3 Ash Blossom, Enjoy Spring, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. Ash Blossom's just here because of the Molcharmies, just to stop opponents' Molcharmies. It's not very good otherwise. It's not a really good Ash format. A lot of the time, if I was going hard second, I was siding out these Ash Blossoms for Drolls, or if they were adding a lot, or for my going second cards like Dark Ruler No More and stuff, because it's just not a great card. Imperm is better now. Not only does it up our trap count for our Diabell Star Vengeance and our spell and trap count for just White Forest in general, but Imperm also lets us interact with K9 decks without using monster effects to trigger other K9 cards. So Infinite Impermanence, slightly stronger in this format currently. I would not play Effect Veiler. I think Effect Veiler is probably the weakest right now. I was playing Nibiru over 1 Perulia. Like I was at 2 Perulia, 2 Nibiru as a card to draw in off of Molcharmies. But then I just decided, like, if I draw enough engine with Molcharmies, if they play through it, then even going second game 1, then I'll be fine regardless. I don't need like to add a board breaker hand trap. And then for our non-engine spells and traps, we are on 1 Foolish Burial Goods. I had to cut down to 1 to add that 3rd Molcharmy Perulia. Honestly, I just like Foolish Burial Goods at 1. I've been playing it at 2, but the most success I've ever had with this deck, I was only on 1 Foolish. And I saw this enough times, or had access to it enough times, that I feel like I really didn't need a second copy. A lot of this times, Foolish Burial Goods was dumping Black Goat Laughs, so I could board break going second game 1. Black Goat Laughs was also an MVP for the entire regional tournament. A lot of people just don't know how this card works, but this shutting off Detonator, this shutting off Yummy Snatchy, absolutely cooked so many decks with when I had access to Black Goat Laughs. And then the final 3 cards is the one-ofs, the Triple Tactics Talent, the Called by the Grave, and I was on 1 Thrust. The reason why only 1 Thrust instead of 2 is A, didn't want to go up beyond 43 cards. I wanted to try and keep it as consistent as possible. And B, I didn't want to brick on thrusts. I think I had 1 thrust in the sideboard that I was bringing in constantly, either going first game 2 or going second game 2, where like if I was going first game 2, I honestly, the only thing I would change about the main deck, and it's something I want to test, I don't know if it's going to be good or not, so take it with a grain of salt. Depending on how the format settles, because a lot more people are playing Draco Tail than I imagined, and I figured Yummy would be more popular. I think a lot of people this weekend soured on K9 Vanquish Soul. There were so many times where K9 Vanquish Soul was bricking, didn't have access to all of its engine, or Paradise Smashers was actively turn skipping themselves. I think it's going to fall out of favor a little bit. I think it's still a strong deck, but I think more people are going to go for the more consistent decks. And if that's the case, then I want to take out the thrust and take out I don't know what else, honestly. We'll take out the thrust and take out something else, and I want to bring in 2 Super Polys. Super Poly seems really good this format because it absolutely cooks Yummy and cooks Draco Tail as well. And with Super Poly, you can make a lot of cards from your extra deck. Obviously, you can make the Garura and the Mud Dragon. Mud Dragon, you can call lights and just protect all of your White Force effects once they're on the field. The Garura, you can make and then send it with Diabell Star, or tribute it with Deception to chain block your deception and also draw a card. It's pretty sick. They're pretty good utility, and then you can make cards like your Chorozo and things like that, or various niche cards like Saint Azamina sometimes comes up. Like I said, 43 card main deck. There's a couple of cards that I would like to test, but outside of that, I would probably, the only other change is I would just take Thrust out of the main deck and just, if I wanted to play Thrust, I'd put it in the side. I didn't really need it in the main deck, and it could have been something else. For the extra deck, I went back and forth on as well, depending on what hand traps are running. Like I said, I was going to run Nibiru, and if I had run Nibiru, I was prepared to run Lina the Light Charmer, the Link 2, but instead I opted for the Perulia, so I changed it back to my standard extra deck list, which is the 1 Poplar, the Resilia, the Silvera, the Diabel, all of the White Forest names, pretty standard. Chaos Angel, Jiraishin, and Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon. I will say Jiraishin felt a little bit weak. It was good at stalling slightly, but a lot of the time I was making Jiraishin was like I literally could not make anything else to interact with, and I needed just a little bit of life gain to keep myself alive, or I needed that Raigeki effect. I made it against Draco Tail, was probably the one thing that kept me alive against. So that's all the synchros. Then we're on the fusions. We have the Chorozo. I love Chorozo. I just love consistency more than anything. Chorozo can come out, but it's a preference thing. I'd rather be consistent. I'd rather just never brick in my life. If I open Diabellstar, I'd like to be able to play the game. So Chorozo, and I made this a couple of times. I went the Chorozo line a couple of times, and people still don't realize that this is a line that you can play through, albeit very interactable. A lot of people just don't see this line coming. Then we're on the Azamina names. Solar Stitchian, very good actually this format because of Yummy. You can go Azamina Debtors, like I said, during your opponent's turn, make Soul send their normal summon Cupsy, so now they don't have any Yummy names that they can special summon with. Then we were also on Moa Regina and Saint. Honestly, did not get to make Moa Regina as much as I had liked, but I think that was honestly a poor decision by me. A lot of the time, I was getting stuck in the mindset of going blind to making Saint Azamina, when I should have just made Moa Regina for the guaranteed pops. And then our last fusion is Guardian Chimera. This would have been Lina the Light Charmer had I played Nibiru, but with the last minute change, I just put Guardian Chimera in. And our last extra deck monster is just SP Little Knight. Just had that little bit of interaction. I don't think I made SP Little Knight once, I'll be honest. There was never a good situation for SP Little Knight, unfortunately. I did make it once, but like I was so far behind, I wasn't winning that game. So it's not a great card. Like if you're having to make SP Little Knight and you're not just like making it as an extra interaction for full combo, then something's gone horribly wrong. So we'll actually go into sideboard, because since the sideboard was the one thing that I was like least confident about. A lot of changes are going to happen to the sideboard, but this is just like what I settled on for the current format. There's a lot of other stuff that I want to test, mainly so like if I do take out the thrust, I can play more board breakers. But we are on the 3 artifact Lancia. We'll get out the like stuff that's guaranteed. Still have to play Lancia. Malice still exists. Maybe if Malice gets hit into Oblivion in the ban list with White Binder getting banned or something like that, and Malice is less prevalent, then Lancias can like go down to 2 or be taken out entirely. We'll see. We're on 3 Joel and Lockbird. Like I said, a lot of the times I was siding out Ash for the 3 Joel and Lockbird, especially if they're like a Ryzel Metsurugi or a deck that just adds a lot. A lot of the times I was also just like siding 1 copy in case I didn't draw the next card in my deck or side deck, which is Salesban. I'm on only 2 Salesban. I was on 3 and then I cut it down to 2. I honestly just don't like this card in general, but while people are still playing Droll or bringing Droll in out of the side, I wanted to run a couple of copies of this. it was more than fine at 2. A lot of the times that I even activated Salesman, they didn't even have Droll in hand. So I mean, it's a hit or miss card. If you want to take the gamble, if you want to take the risk, these could easily just be board breakers, other going first cards. I would probably put these as thrusts or board breakers if it was up to me, if I didn't want to continue playing Salesman. Then we're on our only 2 board breakers was Dark Ruler No More. Dark Ruler No More is very good this format, and if I had to make one change right now to my sideboard, I would be playing a 3rd copy of Dark Ruler No More. I just don't know what I would put in for it. And then we are on a bunch of 1-ups for the rest of the side deck. Harpy's Feather Duster for back row, and a lot of decks this format, like Draco Tail, like Yummy, making their like partial boards, making like their two or 3 monsters, and then just has their field spell or has a ton of back row set. Harpy's Feather Duster, pretty decent this format. Another card that's also really good this format, I highly suggest, is Anti-Spell Fragrance, especially in White Forest. We can play under it, flip it up during our opponent's turn like Skill Drain, and then when it gets to our turn, we send it for cost with our White Forest effects. Speaking of going first cards, we have our Scourge of the White Forest. I love this include. I've always loved Scourge of the White Forest. I hated cutting this card out of the main deck back when I was playing White Forest Pure or White Forest Toy. And now that we're in a very board breaker heavy format, like Dark Ruler No More, Droplet, Lightning Storms, things like that, Scourge is super strong to set going first. Then we're on Triple Tactics Thrust, Sinful Subversion Snake Eye, and D-Barrier for going first as well. I would probably cut the Snake Eye for Dark Ruler No More. This card did not do anything through the entire tournament. I would rather this just been a 3rd copy of Dark Ruler No More, because if you can shut off the monster effects or just shut off the board, White Forest can like just play and like remove everything before going to battle phase or attack over everything. You don't have to like push things into the spell trap card zone if you don't need to. So that was the side deck. I will do a video over siding patterns if you would like for the deck, or answer any questions if you have them as well for the deck. Like I said, I think White Forest is very strong in this format. I think it has a lot of good matchups against the current top tier decks. A lot of people are not looking out for White Forest because people kind of wrote it off during the Droll heavy format. But now that Droll is being sided and not being main decked, White Forest is like never lost power. White Forest is still very strong. And a lot of people still don't know what the deck does, which is very good. So highly would recommend playing White Forest and giving it a shot in this format if you don't have any other decks that you want to try, any new decks that you want to try in the current format. That being said, if you have any other questions about the list or about interactions or about how matches went, processes to like interact with the top tier decks with White Forest, let me know down in the comments below. While you're there, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, let me know all that good YouTube stuff. If you'd like to see a side decking pattern video, I know I've been promising it for a while. I've been very busy like trying to prepare for regionals, but I should be able to do it now that regionals is over. I would be more than happy to go over for that if that is something y'all wanted. Let me know down in the comments below for that as well. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, good night.